Okay, it is 12, so we will get started. So, good afternoon on this beautiful day. It's sunny, can't complain. Um, yeah, so welcome and thanks for coming. This webinar, your cameras are off and you are muted. If you have any questions, you can type them in the chat box or the Q&A. Or you can raise your hand and we will invite you to come off mute to ask your question. We're doing this webinar series as part as the ARC US, AT&T, and the ARC of San Francisco. The curriculum we are using today was developed by them. This webinar will be recorded and posted online. So today we are learning about online safety. So what is online safety, aka cybersecurity? Skill building, recognizing a secure website, making a password that is strong and memorable, recognizing and avoiding online scams, tips and tricks and practice. Why do we need to be concerned about safety when we're online? We need to be concerned because there are people out there that are not very nice people and that they will take advantage of any way or of you any way they can just to make themselves better.
Yeah, and I mean, when we get online, when we're on the internet, we create personal accounts for websites sometimes, right? And that can include personal information, our email address. If it's a website that you're shopping on, it could include your credit card information. There's online banking now, so your banking information. Now, most of your medical records are viewable online, right? IU Health has a My IU Health website where you can go and see your chart. So that's personal health information. So we need to be alert and aware and know how to protect that information so that it can't get into the hands of people who are not good actors. So we share personal information that we want to keep private.
Why do we need to be concerned about safety when we're online? We share personal information that we want to keep private. Like if you're paying something online, they can get your personal information that way if you don't make a secure password and make it something that only you know and nobody else knows. When we are safe online, cybersecurity, a personal data is not accessible to others. Devices work properly and are free from malware. Cybersecurity is all about the safety of information, our identity, personal data, our financial assets when we're online. For many, for people like you and me, cybersecurity means that one, your personal data is only accessible to you or others you authorize. And that two are devices, laptops, desktops, computers, mobile phones, tablets, and proper work properly and are free from malware. Many shapes from viruses that infect your favorite devices to spyware and adware that track your online activities.
Yeah, so malware is just malicious or bad software, computer viruses, things that get onto your computer that make it less secure.
Why does a website need to be secure? A, if you're going to enter personal information, you want to your keep your information safe.
So, yeah, if we're talking about secure websites, I'm actually going to exit out of the PowerPoint here for a second because I want to be able to show you what some things you may look for when you're on your browser to make sure that the website that you are on is secure. So just bear with me. So first, I'm going to show you what it looks like in Firefox, which for those of you who were in our earlier presentations when we covered internet basics, we kind of talked about how there are different browsers that you can use to access the internet, and Firefox is one of them. So right now on my screen, I have the Arc of Indiana website pulled up, and you are able to tell that it is secure. There are two main things that show us that it is secure. First of all, there's a little padlock here. So that is showing like it's locked, it's secure. When you're at home and you want to make sure that your home is secure, what do? You lock the door. And so, same theory here. If you see that padlock, that means that this is a secure website. The other thing that you want to look for is this HTTPS. And this is just another level of security. If you see this on a website, it means that you are on a secure website. I want to give you another view because depending on which internet browser you're using and also your settings on that browser, you might not see these things right away. So if I pull up Google Chrome, which is the browser that I use most often, you can see that up here, there's not a padlock, and you also can't see the HTTPS. However, first of all, it's the Arc of Indiana website, so I know that it's secure. If you are on Google Chrome and you're wanting to check if a website is secure, you see these little lines with circles. It's an icon right to the left of the web address. And if you hover your cursor or your mouse pointer over it, you'll see that pop-up box that says View Site Information. If you click on it, then it will tell you a little bit more about the website. And you see the connection is secure. And that's where you see that little padlock. So that's a way to check to ensure that the website you're on is secure. I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint now. We just did that slide. So again, like I said, you're going to look for that padlock. Um, it is showing that there may be a badge. If the website has one or both, it means it's secure. It means that it's safe to browse, it's not being tracked, and it's safe to create an account with your personal information, such as an email. In many modern browsers, like I said, the website address may not show the beginning of the URL unless you double click the address. Um, but if you can't see the HTTPS, you can look for the padlock icon, or you can also click on those extra lines like I showed you in the demonstration. So now, if the website does not have a padlock icon, it is not secure. Same thing if it does not begin with HTTPS, but instead uses even HTTP without the S, it's still not secure. It has to have HTTPS. So you see an example here. And I'm actually going to go to the next slide because it shows it a little bit larger. You can see that this just says HTTP. It's missing an S. And you can also see here there's an exclamation point, a big red exclamation point, and a circle indicating, hey, something's not right with this website. And also the shield, which previously was green, now is red with a big X mark. So if you don't see this padlock, use a different website. This indicates that it is not a safe website. If it is the website of an organization that you know and that you trust, for example, if I went to the Arc of Indiana website and I saw any of these things, the first thing I would do is make sure that I put in the website name correctly and that I truly was at the right URL or link for the website. And if it still was showing it was not secure, I'd reach out to someone at the organization who I know to ask them, why is this? Why am I not able to access this securely?
So will that show up, Becky? Because you know how Kim here at the ARC, our CEO, likes to, people like to try and hack her and send us emails. So that will show up like that on an email like that.
No, this doesn't show up in emails. This is just talking about when you're going to a website or when you're going to a link on the internet. So this is to make sure that a web page you are safe on, that you are on, is safe and secure. We will talk today a little bit about mischievous emails and what to do if you receive a suspicious email or what is called a phishing email, though. So that is coming up. So, personal accounts. I know I have personal accounts on lots of different websites. I'm curious if you feel like sharing what kind of online accounts you have created. You can drop them in the chat, raise your hand to come off mute. Sean, if you want to share some online accounts you maybe have while people are typing, and I can share some as well.
Yeah, sure. So, like I said the last time, a lot of people think I have a lot, too many apps on my phone, but I use passwords and stuff for my game that I play and all of my I know you guys can't see it, but all of my like Disney Plus, Peacock and all that. Um and Walmart, and I just have a lot of apps I use that I know that is safe for passwords and all that good gravy.
Yeah. So, some online accounts I have an email account. I have one for work. I also have a personal email account. I do shop online. I think I mentioned that before. So I have um, personal accounts at the stores that I shop at frequently. And that has my banking information, it has my credit card information saved. So the next time I want to go buy a book at bookshop.org, I don't have to put it in again. Um, but there are lots of different kinds of accounts that you can have that you can create. There's also social media accounts, right? A Facebook, an Instagram, a Twitter, a TikTok. Um, Schools, if you are in school, you may have an account to access your homework or to see your grades. Your banks, I mentioned online banking. If you have a credit card, you'll probably have a website where you'll create a personal account to view your statement activity, to pay those bills. And news platforms are also an example of a personal account. You know, if you are someone who really enjoys reading about local news, you may have a subscription to the local newspaper where you log in and you're able to see the daily news, the top stories. Um, Other examples, video streaming sites. That's a big one, right? You have to create a personal account if you want to watch Netflix or Hulu or HBO. So some websites require a personal account to use them, like Netflix, HBO. There's a there's a fee, right? There's a subscription fee. You have to subscribe to use them. And then there are also sometimes websites that allow you to access them without a personal account. So some news websites will let you see certain stories without logging in. Some um, some even shopping websites don't require you to create an account. They'll let you check out as a guest. A primary reason for creating a personal account is so you can keep track of what you do. So I mentioned the example of that I keep my credit card information saved on the website that I use to buy books because I buy books pretty frequently. And so I keep that stored on there. It lets me track my purchases. You also have on Netflix or Hulu or whatever, you're able to see your viewing history. So you know if you've already watched a movie. So essentially, you create a personal account so that your information is accessible only to you. I don't need to have everyone in the world know what I watch on Netflix, right? That's that's personal. It's what I choose to watch in my free time. It looks like we have a comment here. Some news sites will give you a number of free articles before you subscribe. Yeah, so that's an example of a website that you can use either with a personal account or without a personal account. So we talked about why you might use a why you might use a website to create a personal account. And a lot of those had to do with personal information, right? Your banking information, your credit card information, your health information. And that's why secure websites are so important. You want that data, you want that information to be protected. And it's important to keep your account secure on any website. If someone gains access to one of your accounts, it's very likely that they can gain access to all of them. So maybe someone hacks into my Netflix account. They might be able to use the information they get on my Netflix account then to get into my online banking accounts. And then they have access to my checking account. So if your personal information could potentially be used to gain access. So it's kind of like a ripple effect. Or maybe they don't gain access to any of my other accounts, but they use my account that they do have access to commit fraud or commit a crime. And then my name is the one that's attached to that. So that really is why it's so important to keep your account secure on any website. Even if it's a website that you're not using often, even if it's a website that you know is a trusted website and you think it's secure, you want to take extra steps, extra precautions to keep your personal information secure. So Before we move on to the next section, Sean's going to talk a little bit about passwords. I do want to pause here if anyone has any questions about how to check if a website is secure, or anything that we just spoke about. Sean, I will keep monitoring the chat and the participants, and if I see a question pop up, I might pause you, but it looks like for now we're good to go to the next slide.
Okay, okay. So passwords. A strong password is one that is hard to guess. Yeah, so when we create a personal account on a website, it's important to make sure our account password is something strong as possible. Yeah, you don't want like 1, 2, 3, 4 because that's the first thing that a hacker will guess. You don't want like two numbers or four numbers in a row that's the same. You want to have uppercase, lowercase, um, some different kind of characters. You just want to make sure it's something that only you know and that will not get hacked. Let's continue our discussion online safety with a look at a strong password when we create a personal account on the website. I don't, we're not going to do that, are we?
Yep, we are.
Oh, we are. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Well, um, strong password. How do you come up with a password? How do you make a strong password secure? So does anybody want to tell us how do you make a strong password?
And it's okay if you don't know. Maybe that's what you're here to learn. And we're so excited to kind of share some tips about how to create strong passwords. So Sean is going to dig a little bit deeper into some of the common requirements of what a strong password may need, and then he's going to give some tips.
Yeah, so using numbers and uppercase and lowercase letters and symbols like the dollar sign or other stuff like that, such as punctuation marks. Sorry, I can't say that very well. Um, most websites require a password on their sign up forms. The requirements are usually listed underneath the form. The requirement may not show until your password has failed their requirements. Um, Passwords can usually include numbers, uppercase, lowercase letters, symbols, and some or such as punctuations. Um, if your first try isn't accepted, review the website's requirements, then try adding a capital letter, number, or symbol, or make the password longer. In this example, the password must be at least 8 characters long, and it must contain at least one uppercase letter, one lowercase letter, and a number.
And when we say characters, that just means anytime that you press a button on the keyboard, that's a character. So a character can be a letter, it can also be a number, it can also be a space. So hitting the space bar counts as one character. I will say that some websites do not want you to use a space in your password. So if that is the case, it will tell you that. but that's what we mean when we say 8 characters.
So, quick tips. Don't use common words like password. Don't include personal information. I learned that hard way. Um, don't use the same password on multiple accounts on or multiple accounts and sites. Don't share others. Don't share. Sh My mind is working faster than my mouth. Don't share with others. Keep them private.
Yeah.
Sorry, Becky.
No, go ahead.
Even if you get a notification that someone wants to use your account and change the password, don't do it. It's your account, your password. Don't share it with nobody. I've done that mistake once and I learned from that, and it's not fun.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly, you may think that you're just helping out a friend by sharing your Netflix password, but if they now know one of your passwords, maybe they'll take that and use it to guess your banking um, password or your Venmo password so that they can send themselves a bunch of money. It really is best practice. Just keep your passwords private and to yourself. I will say that bullet that says don't include personal information, this includes your birthday. So I think sometimes people think that using their birthday is it's easy to remember, right? Most of us know when our birthday is. So it's a really easy series of numbers that you've probably had memorized ever since you were little, but that's not a secure component to a password because a lot of people know when your birthday is. And not everyone who is close friends with you knows, right? If you're on social media, everyone who can see your Facebook account knows when your birthday is. So that means everyone who can see your Facebook account has an idea of what to guess if they were trying to guess your passwords. So, personal information that would be really easy for other people to know about you, um, or even personal information that might be leaked in like a data breach. So, using a part of your social security number, that's also not a smart idea because if somehow that information gets leaked in a data breach at a company, that is easy for a hacker to guess as well.
Tips for strong password. Make the password longer. For example, like one skunk, uh, s- s- one stinks.
Yeah, so long passwords don't need to be complex and hard to remember. Um, you can make it like everyone knows skunks stink, right? So it doesn't have to be like this image here, where it's like a bunch of random letters and numbers. Those are great. That is a strong password. But if it's something that you're not going to remember, it's not a very good password because then it's going to lock you out too.
Use short phrases that are easier to remember. Cows, uh, say that, Becky.
So it says cows help make cheese.
Yeah.
And Sean, I might be losing my memory because I do believe that when Sean and I were going over this PowerPoint, I did know I don't really like that password as an example of a strong password because it's all lowercase. It doesn't have any capital letters. It doesn't have any numbers. It doesn't have any special characters like an exclamation point or an at symbol. So I thought I had changes on the slide, and I do apologize that it is not. But the
Yeah,
key
I
tip
actually
here,
thought you did.
yeah, the key tip here is to use a short phrase, something that you are able to remember.
Keep track of passwords. How do you remember your password? Um, well, how does everybody remember their password? I know everybody's different. A lot of people can write it down in a notebook. A lot of people password software and different phrases. Um, on the other hand, I read because my head doesn't work that well, and I have a lot of stuff in my head. So I write it down on a post-it note and put it in a drawer that I know nobody gets in.
Yeah. So if you're on the internet for a while, you're going to have a lot of accounts with a lot of different passwords. Um, if you have a smartphone, you're going to have a lot of mobile apps with different passwords. And it's best practice to not use the same password for every single thing, right? We just talked about that. Use a different password for every website. So it can be challenging to remember them. So these are three good examples of how you can keep track of passwords. And I believe, Sean, you're going to talk a little bit about each one in more detail.
Yeah, and Noah said that he keeps his in a notebook.
Yeah.
Strong in or store in a safe and secure place. Instead of writing the actual password, write something that helps you remember that what the password is. Example, how many excited animals smell bad? What?
Right.
That's
So
weird.
that makes sense, right? We used an example password and a couple slides back of a password that is one skunk
Yeah.
stinks, exclamation point. So this is an example hint of how do you remember that? Um, I want to hit on the store in a safe and secure place again, um, because there are some notebooks that are password managers, which have some like pre-filled out information that so it already says like website, username, password, and then you just fill in the blanks. What most of those notebooks do though is it's a notebook that on the very front cover says passwords. So anyone who's walking by your office, your desk, at your home, who sees that there's a notebook with the word passwords written right across it, going to be an easy guess that I bet if we look in that website in that notebook, we're going to find some passwords. So if you do use this method, which is a fine method, it's a good way to keep things remember things, but make sure you're storing it in a safe and secure place. If you have a drawer that locks with a key, if you have a bag that you carry with you to and from work, um, making sure that it's in a place that is not easily accessible or where it's going to be found easily. Another example, Sean, do you remember the other example of a notebook that you brought up when we were going through these slides?
No.
So your notes app on your phone can also be, it's like a notebook that you carry with you. If you're like me, you have your phone with you almost all the time.
Password software. Some phones and laptops can store such information. Never save your information on a public computer or device. You may choose to use a secure password management mobile app or website that can help you keep track of your password. These programs are usually unlocked with a single master password and then allow you to access all your passwords when you need them. The app also will generate passwords for you to or for you that are complex combinations of letters, numbers, and special characters. Cows make or cows help make cheese.
Here's the updated one. So phrases as well. This is soon going to be the standard. A lot of websites are already making it so that it's not just a password, it's a passphrase. And that helps make your passwords longer and stronger. So using a phrase is a good way to remember it and also make it a little stronger.
So, will a lot of places be using a phrase instead of a password?
That seems to be what it's heading towards. Yeah.
Something to look forward to, I guess.
Yep. So, when we started this workshop today, we discussed that cybersecurity is all about the safety of information, your identity, your personal data, and our financial assets when we're online. So, cybersecurity means that your personal data is only accessible to you or others that you authorize, and that your devices, so that's your laptops, your tablets, your smartphones, desktop computers, that they work properly and are free from malware. So, reminder that malware, that's that malicious or bad software. It includes viruses, or it can include spyware, adware that tracks what you are doing online. So we certainly can do our best by keeping our information safe by using secure websites and strong passwords for our accounts. But unfortunately, that's not enough anymore. We also need to be aware of online scams. And this is where people try to take our information from us. They try to swindle us, they try to take advantage or exploit us to get that information. So, we're going to shift to kind of talk about the different ways that people with bad intentions try to get access to your personal information and your financial accounts. So, we're going to be talking about online fraud and scams. We're going to talk about how to recognize a scam and how to protect yourself when you see a scam. I will note this is just kind of the introduction. We're going to dig deeper into this next week. We're going to be talking specifically about romance scams and exploitation. But today we wanted to kind of cover some of the online frauds and scams, specifically two types. We're going to be talking about phishing and social engineering. So these are scams that you may encounter on a website. It also could be an email or a text message, or sometimes even like a pop up window on your computer. So, phishing is a common type of scam. This is the example that Sean brought up earlier. It is when scammers use fake emails or text messages to try to phish for information. These fake messages can look real. It might even say that it's from someone you know, but they link to fake websites. The website may look like a trusted, well known company, organization, sometimes even a government agency, but it's all a trick to get your information, such as your social security number or bank account and credit card information. So so yesterday, I got a couple phishing emails. I'm sure you got them too, Sean, that it says it's from Kim Dodson, who is the CEO of the Arc of Indiana and our boss. But if you look closely, you can see it really wasn't from Kim's email address. So you have to really take your time and look at things before you just click on a link that someone sends you. So they do look real, but there are certain ways to tell when they are phishing, and we're going to talk about that. So,
I w
oh,
I
go
just
ahead,
want to
Sean.
add something. Um, there is also such thing as phishing text also because I got a phishing text saying that I owed, um, oh, what are those when you go up to Michigan?
The toll roads.
The toll road fees. I've gotten like three of those in the past week, and I don't drive, so I know it's not real.
Yeah, and so and that's a really good example is it's something that might seem real at first, right? Toll roads are a real thing, but they'll kind of scare you. They'll say, "Hey, you owe this much money. If you don't pay it, we're going to send it to collections, or if we don't pay it, you're going to get arrested." And so they also use urgency to make you feel pressure to act quickly. Like if you don't do what they're asking quickly, that there's going to be a negative consequence for you. And that could either be clicking on a link to pay your toll bill, which can then trick you into downloading viruses or spyware onto your mobile device or laptop. Or it can be putting in your personal information, like I said, um, a social security number, a credit card number. So I've said the word malware a couple of times in this training. I've said it's bad or malicious software, and it's a tool that fraudsters use. And there's a lot of different ways that it can look, but it can lead to viruses that infect your computer, or it can also lead to spyware that tracks your online activities. So maybe when you first click that link, there's nothing bad that happens, but you've now downloaded something on your computer that's watching everything you do online. So the next time you go and you log into your bank account, it's going to be seeing what your username and password is. And now that scammer has access to your banking account. So, we're going to talk a little bit more about how to recognize phishing emails, but we're also, before we do that, I'm going to talk a little bit about social engineering and what that is. So, social engineering is another common type of scam. It is when a fraudster or a scam artist tries to gain your trust by convincing you that they are someone they are not in order to get personal information from you. So this may be when the person claims to be a friend or family member in trouble, pretending to be a company with a great discount or offer, or working on behalf of a government agency such as the road authorities, collecting your unpaid tolls. These fraudsters, again, like Sean mentioned, they can approach you by phone, email, text, or social media. Um, One that is becoming more and more common is that fraudsters will call people who are older, elderly, and when they answer the phone, they'll just say grandma. And then that person thinks that it's whoever their grandchild may be talking to them on the phone. And they are then convinced that it's their grandchild and their grandchild needs money sent to them right away. That's an example. So they trick you. They trick you into giving them information or sending them money. Gift cards is another common thing. So if anyone is asking you to pay for something through gift cards, that is a huge red flag that that is a scam. No reputable source organization is ever going to ask you to buy them $500 in Apple gift cards. So if that is happening, that's a big red flag that you're being scammed, and it's time to talk to someone who you trust about what to do next. So before we go into the tips to recognize scam, I've mentioned a couple examples of scams that are common right now. Sean has mentioned a couple of examples of scams. Is there anything that you all wanted to kind of talk about, maybe other scams that you've seen or heard of? Sean, if you want to share any other things, then we'll move on to our tips.
Another one that m my old bank told me that is happening is that they've seen at that bank that people are going on dating sites and getting people to try act like they're dating someone, and then you go to their or they come to your house after a while, and then they can get your stuff that way too. They have other people that are like helping them get information from you.
Yeah, and that's a good example of what we'll be talking about more next week as well, especially people will use dating websites as a way to create trust with someone who they then intend to scam. Um, something else,
And I will share a personal story on that one then.
yeah. Okay, well, I'm gonna move forward. We have about 15 minutes left and a fair amount of slides. I want to be able to cover all of this information. So, some tips to think about when you need to recognize scams. Oh, Sean, this is your slide. I'm sorry. I was in such a hurry.
Um, have have you heard of a person or an organization? Can you tell who the email is from? Does the email have mistakes? Are are they asking you for information? Are they trying to rush you into a quick action? Is it too good to be true?
So, this is an example of, have you heard of a person or an organization? So, again, talking about secure websites, this is a kind of blurry image, but you can see there's the HTTPS. So, you know that it is a secure website. You also know that this is AT&T. We've all heard of AT&T. Even if you hadn't heard of AT&T, at noon today, we talked to you about AT&T digital literacy. So this is an organization that we know exists. Typically, they'll also have their official logo. So you can see right in the top left-hand corner, you have the AT&T logo. And typically there is contact information. So this is a good example of a legitimate business website. It has um, the name of the organization, their logo, contact information. Also, when I showed you the Arc of Indiana's website earlier, that's an example of a legitimate business website where you don't have to be concerned about clicking links on websites that have that HTTPS and that little armor symbol. So, can you tell who the message is from? That was one of the tips that Sean gave to kind of notice a scam. So, on this example here, we've got, oops, I'm so sorry, I clicked. We've got a really long, wild email address here, right? So, it says that it's from accounts, but then it's just got a big, big jumble of letters and numbers. And it says it's from PayPal, but the website says googlegroups.com. So typically, if you were expecting an email from accounts at PayPal, it would be something like accounts at paypal.com, not about 30 letters and numbers all jammed together at google.com. And you can see here, what is it trying to do? It's trying to get you to click this big blue button to log into your PayPal account. So the next question you ask if you're trying to figure out something, if something's a scam, is, are they asking for your information? And yes, if you're logging into your PayPal account, that's a web service that allows you to send and receive money online. So that has access to your banking information. So this is a sure sign that they're phishing. They're phishing for your information. You also want to check if the email has a lot of mistakes. Now, I will be the first to admit sometimes the emails that I send have mistakes. But if you're noticing some really bizarre or strange mistakes, that also can be a sign that there is that this is a phishing. So, for example, um, right here, the word account has been misspelled. Typically, if someone is working in accounts at an organization, you would expect they'd know how to spell it. Where in this example, it's misspelled different. It's spelled different ways throughout the entire email. Um, there's also some grammar errors and extra spaces here. So it looks like there are quite a few mistakes, which could be a sign that this is a phishing email. So then, are they trying to rush you into a quick action? So scammers might use alarming phrases or words to give urgency to make you think like you have to act now. So this example says action required. We've been trying to reach you. This is expiring soon. If you don't act soon, you're going to lose $750. These are all things that are trying to scare you into acting quickly and acting without thinking and taking your time to make sure that this is a legitimate request. They threaten that something bad will happen. Maybe your account will be closed, or they'll promise something good, but only if you respond right away. If they're not giving you time to think about it or to make sure that it's a real email, then they're likely a scammer. So also another thing to ask is it too good to be true? So in this example, still saying that we're going to send you $750, all you have to do is complete the following steps and we'll send you $750. That seems too good to be true, right? That should kind of be raising a red flag in your head. Like, I don't really know many companies who are sending people just free money for no reason. So, a good rule of thumb is if it sounds too good to be true, probably is. So I'm gonna skip this example just for the sake of time. And Sean, I'm going to have you do the do's and don'ts to avoid scams.
Okay. Don't give any personal information. Rely or reply to or engage with a fraudster. Click any link or buttons. Download any files or attachments. Do be skeptical. Read emails carefully. Look up information on your own.
Yes. So we didn't get quite through all of our slides. We were going to go into each of these a little bit more in detail. I'm going to pause here. We will pick up where we left off next Tuesday. So same time, noon on Tuesday at noon Eastern time on Tuesday. We'll finish up the do's and don'ts to avoid scams, and then we'll add on our romance scams. I'll save kind of this last 5 minutes here in case anyone has any questions. While we're waiting for any questions, Sean, you can kind of do a recap of what we talked about today. We didn't quite get through it all, but we did cover quite a bit today.
All right. Thanks for coming on today and learning with us on safety, cybersecurity. Learned about online safety and cybersecurity, built skills to recognize a secure website, make passwords stronger and memorable, recognize and avoid online scams, and discovered helpful tips to help you stay safe online.
Yeah, so thank you all so much for coming. We will have two more sessions. So next Tuesday at noon, we're going to be finishing up talking about some tips and tricks for how to avoid scams, and then also talking about romance scams. And then on Tuesday, May 5th, that's going to be our last of the webinar series. We're going to be talking about digital citizenship. So, again, it is at noon Eastern Time. Really hope to see you all here again next week. Thank you so much for joining us.
And you're welcome, Logan.
Yep, we're glad to have you all there.
Thanks and have a great week.